Most of the shit I talk about on here stems from something I heard on here. I was listening to a video where the guy's going through the. I didn't even finish watching the video because I was just sick of, kind of sick of the stupidity of it all. But he was talking about how the ATF rules. People are in prison today over ATF rules, not necessarily law. Which, even if it's law, I don't agree with it. It boils down to lack of knowledge and ignorance spreading faster than truth. You have the natural right to protect yourself in any way that you choose. And if some government has the authority to tell you that you don't, well, then you're not free. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. And I've said for years, I'll take it as long as nobody involved, meaning that no names would be recorded, nobody would go to jail, no video would be taken, that I would take the challenge up to go anywhere in the country and as if I cannot own firearms, so we'll pretend Nick's still a felon, and within hours have any firearm I want. And to go a step further, within hours to have any, I want to use the word legal, like as in what you can buy over the shelf firearm within hours. And within days, I could have any not so legal firearm I wanted. Laws only affect those who are willing to obey them. That's it. Gun control is not about saving lives. It's not about, keeping you safe. It's about controlling you. It's about making sure that one day you can't say, I'm not paying that tax. Or you're not taking my land. Or I'm not going to jail. That's what it's about. And you can say it's not, but kind of history kind of tells us that's what it's about. Murder is already illegal, right? Harming other people is already illegal. It's already illegal. Well, if we, you allow these stupid ass rules and shit, and you support them through the dumbasses that fall in line with this guy did this thing a decade ago, therefore he shouldn't be able to own firearms now. And if he does own a firearm, even if he hasn't harmed anybody with that firearm, we're going to throw him in a cage. And when you support that, you inevitably support things like, classifications for modern sporting rifles, where they then ban the import of, certain models of AKs. Our government shouldn't be able to ban importation of anything that we, the people, want. We should still be able to buy Mac 90s. We should still be able to have Russian AKs imported, Russian ammo imported. It's all about money and power. That's all that shit's about. The older I get, the more sick of it I get. I'm 45 now. I'm 100% closer to being dead and closer to the end than I am the beginning. 100%. I've said that shit for years. It's fucking true now. And at what point do you just say, yeah, I don't care. I don't care. I'm going to do what I want. I'm not going to bother anybody. And if you try to harm me, well, I'm going to harm back. I think this country is done for as a whole. Just here's the plan, just so you know. One day, dam all this up. all this. We'll dam all this up. You probably can't see very well. Cross there, dam it up. Get all these trees out of here. Dig a bunch of this out and use it for the dam. And then put a house up there. Facing back this way, that way, away from the road. All we see is the field and the lake. But I think it is gone not because it can't be stopped. It's gone because people are stupid, and people have, we've bought into what we believe is how it is supposed to be. Whether that be Congress enacting national sweeping laws and then federal agents enforcing it. I mean, that alone is bullshit. If the federal government had complete authority over the United States, we'd be called the federal state of America, not the United States of America. The federal government only exists due to the states creating it as a way to protect the states. And it's all flipped upside down. The initial fuck up on the founders part of it is that they did not have a document that ran beside the Constitution that said, hey, people, this is your duties. And that's where the fuck up was. And that's why we are where we are today. That's why you go to work and 60% of your income goes to some form of taxation. Think about that number. 60% of your adult working life, government takes from you in some way. That's income tax, property tax, sales tax. I mean, and they get you every way they can. They've taxed us every way they can. California, dude, they're getting taxed every absolute way they can. And it hasn't even stopped there. So now, you have the EPA and this carbon credit shit. Mark my words. Remember that I've said this before, and it come true years later. People are like, oh, that'll never happen. And then shit started happening. But by the time Nick is dead, if I live more than another 5 years, which I don't really plan on it, they will find a way to calculate how much oxygen you intake and use every day, and they will tax you on that oxygen because government owns it. Just like they own the deer that walk across that field right there, or just like they own the fish in the river out there. Just like they own a third of the country. They just claim ownership to it, and they got the bigger stick. So what do? And you can't get enough people together, with the same mindset to put a stop to it. And then who you want to fight? Well, nobody wants to have that conversation. We live in a country where you're free, yet the uniform you may or may not wear dictates whether or not you committed a crime, or whether or not you can shoot me if I'm committing a crime. In the state of Tennessee, it is illegal to fight off an illegal arrest. Doesn't make sense. Well, yeah, it does. It's government protecting its protectors. The police are not here to protect us. ATF's not here to protect you. They're here to protect those in government. That's why government doesn't fear the people. Government has no fear of you. There was a recent thing about, from Sean Ryan saying, well, how does Dan Crenshaw, get so rich from making $174,000 a year? Okay, I'm going to let you in on this. Here's how that happened. Congress voted themselves a salary because it's supposed to be a voluntary position. All government is supposed to be voluntary except for the president. That's supposed to be the only full-time position in all of government. However, Congress decided, 1 day a year, because it's mandated in our Constitution, they meet at least 1 day a year. Well, they wanted to make more and more laws to give themselves more and more power. And they decided, well, now this is a career path, so we need a salary. So they voted themselves a salary. Well, they also made it law that they cannot be arrested for a criminal act while that act is committed while Congress is in session. So they commit a criminal act during the session. You can't do nothing about it. Nothing can be done about it. Police ain't going to arrest them anyway. Even if that wasn't law, they still wouldn't get arrested. That's why you have Nancy Pelosi, worth $1 billion. And Tesla. Use Tesla as an example. I'm not saying Tesla did this. Possibility. They created that EV mandate. So Tesla gives Nancy Pelosi, let's just say, I'm just using as an example, Dan Crenshaw, gifts them so many shares of Tesla stock. They then know that they're going to put this EV mandate through. So they also invest in Tesla stock. Then they put the mandate through. What happens? Well, Tesla stock goes through the roof because now it's mandated, and they know that they're going to be selling all these EV cars. What just happened? Well, the congressperson got super wealthy off of it. $174,000 is just bullshit. That's just to pay for their housing maybe while they're in D.C. All the rest of the money is made on the backside. And we, the people, just allow it to happen. Every Friday or once a month or once a year or bi-weekly, whatever, every quarter, you pay your income tax. Why? Because if you don't, you're afraid to lose everything you own, which is bullshit. You worked for it. It's yours. Government didn't work for it. Government don't have ownership of you. But the United States of America, where you're the land of the free and home of the brave, which is really the land of the free and home of the slave, people have bought onto this. They're free because they can vote shit. You point at any system, and I can show you the flaw in the system and how it's bogus. Criminal justice system. So there's recently a gag order. I don't know if they actually got it through or not. I think I don't think it actually went through. But the Williamson County, that's Franklin, Tennessee, prosecutor tried to gag Whistling Diesel from talking about or profiting from talking about this tax evasion case he's got going on. And but they had no problems putting it on the news. They have no problems with that. Tyler Robinson, the dude that they say shot Charlie Kirk, tell me where he's going to get a fair trial at. You could, even if the system was legitimate, which it's not, it's completely unconstitutional. But even if it was legitimate, you cannot get a fair trial in the United States today, especially in these high-profile cases. But they didn't put a gag order on the news stations for releasing the information about Whistling Diesel. But as soon as Whistling Diesel put out a video about it, they tried to gag order his ass, so he couldn't talk about it. And why? What was the reason? Because he's going to taint the jury. They don't care if they taint the jury in their favor, just like with Tyler Robinson. But if it's in the other direction, and you might make people think, well, all bad. They say no. We're not going to allow you to do that. You don't have the freedom to say what you want to say. We all bought a hook, line, and sinker at some point, but it's time. Like, I don't want to die leaving this mess to my kids. And I think most people, know that there's issues. They just don't really understand the issues themselves, or that kind of falls back to the ignorance part of it, the knowledge part of it. Freedom's a pretty simple thing. I want to stay over here. People own that land right there. Their last name is Fowlers, I believe. It's pretty simple. I want to stay over here and do whatever the fuck I want to do, and you stay over there and do whatever the fuck you want to do. And as long as what I'm doing is not affecting you, and as long as what you're doing is not affecting me, that's freedom. Do what you want. But we buy into all these laws now, DUI laws. I've explained that one before. You support gun control because you support DUI laws. Well, how's that? Because DUI laws are about what could happen. It's not about what has happened. A crime is, even that, the definition of a crime it's no longer causing loss, injury, or harm to another human. It's disobeying government. That's what a crime is, disobeying government. And people buy into it because most people believe the government's God. That's a fact. If you obey laws just because it's the law, like, for instance, I wear my seatbelt. I don't wear my seatbelt because it's the law. I wear my seatbelt because I know what it feels like to be partially ejected from a car from not wearing a seatbelt. And it didn't feel too good. And the recovery sucked. Therefore, I now wear my seatbelt in hopes that I at least stay in the car and my face don't go through a windshield like last time. You know, I don't know if you ever noticed. I got scars all over. See the scar on my eye, all the little scars on my eye, and I got a big scar that runs down my side of my face. That's all from going through a windshield when I didn't have a seatbelt on. So, I don't wear my seatbelt because it's a law. I wear my seatbelt because it makes sense for me to. Now, does that mean I think you should have to? Nope. Sure don't. You don't want to wear a seatbelt? Don't. There's no way you can argue that you not wearing a seatbelt is going to somehow harm somebody else. There's no argument for it. And that's really what we need to get back to in this country is, well, we probably need to start with that. And then we need to get back to community-based common law courts where the government is not involved whatsoever. Because it's all bad. Every 4 years, they play this game where they're pit two people that they pick against each other, neither one of which represents you. You're never going to meet Donald Trump. You're never going to sit down and eat with him. He is never going to ride in that 1990 Honda Civic that you own. He's never going to wonder what it's like to not be able to pay his bills this Friday and have to figure it out. He's never going to have any of the problems that normal people have. None of those people are. None of the people in Congress are. None of the people at the state level and legislature are. They're making laws in their states. And we just continue as a country to buy into it. There's less than 1 million people total wearing badges and guns. And that can affect you directly, right? Like, Kamala Harris isn't going to be getting kitted out and kicking indoors. Neither is, name your congressman, Dan Crenshaw. It's going to be some thug wearing a badge, just doing their job. Because it's the law. And that's just all from incremental normalization as the country buying into it. And it's unfortunate. And I know that me doing some video or, proving the point that gun control is nothing about other than control. If you took every gun out of the country today that the government knew about, tomorrow I could have any gun I wanted, full auto or not. Maybe not tomorrow for a full auto. Then the next week. Guaranteed. These people that do these shootings, that like walk into schools and shit, they do it with a gun because you made the gun so relevant. But it's not the right word. You're going to, if you want to hurt a lot of people, you're going to go somewhere where it's easy to hurt a lot of people. The place I work at now, on the front door says, no firearms permitted, big little sticker. But they brought it up in orientation. And I'm like, so is that sticker going to stop the guy with a gun? The lady's like, no. I'm like, so, again, why is no firearms permitted? Why wouldn't you want people here to safely carry firearms to protect you? She's like, well, we got a guard out the front. I said, I know. Is he armed? No. I was like, so when the guy shoots him and then comes in here and shoots me, or tries to, who's going to be there to protect me? And she said, well, hide the best you can. Your protection is your problem. Protecting your family, that's your problem. Doesn't matter where you're at or what sticker's on what window or what that sticker says. It's just, dude, like when are people gonna like quit this? You know, mouse. I don't even call it a mouse and cat. It's a game of, like, it's just a bullshit game of, the big stick versus the retards, and the retards are losing continuously. These gun tubers calling you a patriot. You're a patriot, yet you got to ask daddy government if you can own some shit. You patriot, yay. But they use the term because it sells. It's all about money, even to them. It's just sickening. Even back like when we was crashing me and Chris Harris was crashing the Moms Demand Action. What's that Moms Demand Action? That what was Moms Demand Action? Yeah. The gun group, we went and crashed those bitches at that bar where the lawyer got smashed ass drunk and drove herself there and drove herself out of there. And I explained to them, you can go back and watch the first video, and if you watch it all the way through, you'll realize really quick that people who want gun control know nothing about firearms. Literally nothing. And when you explain to them, hey, when you make gun laws, only the people that follow those laws are who it applies to. Well, in their mind, they think like, cops are going to be able to find every gun. You walk by people with firearms every day in places they're not supposed to have firearms every time. Just like every time you get on the road, you pass a drunk driver unknowingly. I hope things will change. I don't think they will. It's unfortunate for my children. I wish I could live another lifetime to be here to protect them. At least help guide them. But I'm not going to be. So, at what point is enough for you? But I guess everybody has to decide that on a personal level. I don't know. The government can ban or stop you from getting what you want. If it can dictate what you own. If it can tax what you buy. If it can tax your earnings. If it can tell you that, this land, I'll never own this land. If I don't pay the tax on it, they will come and kill me if they have to. So they can sell it to get their few $100s. The tax on this land is less than a couple $100 a year. 12 acres. A couple $100 a year. If I didn't pay them for 2 years, that third year they would start filing the paperwork to sell this land over less money than is given to one of these whores that bounce out, push out 4, 5, 10 kids by 6 or 7 different dads. Less money over years than they give one of them every month in food stamps. They will kill me to remove me from my property. Now make that shit make sense. Wait a minute, you're giving away $1,000 a month in food stamps, but I don't pay $400 in a couple of years, and you want to sell my land and then kill me to remove me from it? I asked one of the local county commissioners if he was going to be the one that came and killed me when I refused to pay property taxes. He said, Nick, they won't kill you. They'll just sell your property. I said, Keith, you obviously didn't understand the question. Why? Because most people are apt to just follow the law. I'm just not one of those people. I don't just follow laws. I live my life. I don't bother nobody. I try to help people anytime I can. I try to be a better person every day if I can. And I try to pass that along to my family. And hopefully they do the same, and I think they will. The world's not going to get better through voting. And your voting is what got us here. That's what got literally where we're at today. Your voting got us here. Your voting is not going to get us out of here. And it's time to quit thinking that way, and it's time for a change. We, the people, have the right to abolish or change our government. When government fears the people, there's liberty. But as of now, when the people fear government, there's tyranny.